A hand closes around a piece of meat. Not much, a few bites at most. The animal that was killed lies nearby, half butchered, its bones still warm. A small fire flickers against the walls of a cave, throwing light across faces that have not yet learned to write, build cities, or name the stars. The hand does not belong to the hunter. It belongs to someone who waited, someone who took, and somewhere in the darkness, another pair of eyes notices. The first human crime may have looked exactly like this. Most people imagine the first crime as murder, a sudden act of violence, a body in the dirt. But violence is older than humanity itself. Wolves kill, chimpanzees kill, even ants wage war. Crime is something stranger. Crime begins when a rule exists, and rules only matter when other minds are watching. Researchers who study hunter-gatherer societies have noticed something remarkable. Even in the smallest groups, long before governments or laws, people develop invisible boundaries. This food belongs to them. This tool belongs to her. This child belongs to this family. Cross those boundaries, and something unusual happens. Not fear, not instinct, judgment, a feeling that something is wrong. And that feeling may be one of the oldest things that makes us human. Archaeologists cannot point to a single skeleton and say, this person committed the first crime. The evidence simply does not survive. But they can see the conditions that made crime possible. Around 100,000 years ago, human beings became increasingly dependent on cooperation. Hunting required trust. Sharing food required trust. Caring for the sick required trust. Our ancestors survived because they became extraordinarily good at relying on one another, which created an entirely new problem. For the first time on Earth, there were creatures capable of betrayal. A lion can steal, a raven can deceive, but humans can understand ownership, understand fairness, and then choose to violate both. That choice changes everything. Some anthropologists believe the first true crimes were probably acts of theft, taking food, keeping more than your share, secretly breaking agreements. Not because these acts were especially violent, but because they damaged something invisible, trust. And trust is a fragile thing. A group can survive the death of one hunter. It cannot easily survive the belief that anyone might steal from anyone else. In a sense, the first crime scene was not a place. It was a relationship. And then something even stranger happened. Humans began punishing rule breakers. Chimpanzees sometimes retaliate against cheaters, but humans develop something far more sophisticated. We gossip about offenders. We shame them. We exile them. We create stories about justice. Eventually, we build prisons, courts, and entire civilizations around the simple idea that certain actions deserve consequences. An invisible line had appeared inside the human mind. On one side was cooperation. On the other was violation. Civilization grew from the attempt to defend that line. But there is a darker implication. The first human crime was not merely the first act of stealing or deception. It was the first moment one person realized they could benefit another's trust, and chose to break it anyway. A new kind of predator had entered the world, one that hunted social bonds instead of flesh. And every legal code ever written, from ancient kings to modern nations, is still answering that ancient discovery. Because crime is not the opposite of civilization. Crime is the price of civilization. The moment human beings learned to trust one another, they also created the possibility of betrayal. And somewhere, beside a small fire tens of thousands of years ago, someone reached for something that was not theirs. A hand moved, another pair of eyes noticed, and humanity crossed a threshold from which it has never returned.